Bible, turn to Exodus chapter 3. Exodus chapter 3. Last week we talked about God revealed, and this morning we're going to talk about Moses exposed. God reveals himself to Moses in chapter 3 in a very important scene. And then now Moses is completely exposed as he responds to what God wants to do. He's not really a guy who feels like he's in a position to be called by God to do anything. He has been confronted by God. He's 80 years old. He's been working as a day laborer for the past 40 years. He is dependent on his father-in-law. Probably lives in a tent, really close to where he's at. He has one son, and he's guiding 100 sheep or better around the backside of the wilderness, and he comes to the mountain of God. He's thinking to himself, how did I end up here? I was in the court of Pharaoh. I was his stepson, or his adopted son. I had life made. It was a piece of cake. And all of a sudden, look where I'm at. And you know, sometimes life is that way. You start right here and you take a nosedive and go in some weird direction. And you're probably thinking to yourself, what in the world did I do, or what in the world is God doing in my life? That's where Moses finds himself. He had to be wondering, how did I find myself here, and why am I chosen for this task once he encounters God? He's thinking, there's no possible way that I'm the right person for this job that you're telling me about. Surely you've made a mistake. He presents God with 5 excuses. We'll kind of cascade through those in time. But in this section right here, there's an interesting word. Let's start reading in chapter 3. I'm going to start verse 11. We're just going to walk our way through this all the way to the end to verse 17 or so in chapter 4. Verse 11. He said, "But I will be with you, and this shall be the sign for you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain." Then Moses said to God, "If I come to the people of Israel, say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? What shall I say to them?" God said to Moses, "I am who I am." And he said, "Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you." God also said to Moses, "Say this to the people of Israel, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and thus I am to be remembered throughout all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together, and say to them, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, has appeared to me, saying, I have observed you and what has been done to you in Egypt. And I promise that I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt, to the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, the land flowing with milk and honey. And they will listen to your voice, and you and the elders of Israel shall go to the king of Israel and say to them, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us, and now," that's the word I want you to see, "and now." It's an interesting word. "And now, please let us go 3 days journey in the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God." Stop here just for a moment. The word "now" is an interesting word. It indicates that God's time to step in had arrived. We're going to emphasize this a little bit, but I'm a pretty anxious person about some things. I had this long-range plan for what to get done this past week. Guess what? It didn't get done. Something got left undone. And you know why? Stuff just comes up. I wasn't planning on this happening or that happening or this. All of a sudden I need to go to this meeting. It just comes up. And I don't have any idea it's coming. But there is one person who knows about all those contingencies and makes necessary adjustments, all that stuff, because he knows what's going to happen. It's God. God tells Moses, now is the time. When you go in there, you tell Pharaoh, now's the time. Now God says something right after that verse right there, which is really interesting. Look what he says. let you go unless compelled by a mighty hand. So I will stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with all the wonders that I will do in it. After that, he will let you go. So he says, you know, and I take that to mean, and I'll reinforce it again, God can make happen whatever needs to happen now. He doesn't want me to manipulate things, to force things, to shove things. He can make whatever needs to happen when he needs it to happen right now, when it's the right time. So Moses is learning something about God. Now we have the benefit of the whole scriptures and all the stuff that's happened. But Moses needs to learn all this stuff. And it's a huge learning curve for him. What's God like? Does he really control what's going to happen? And this text reinforces in my mind, God really is in charge of what's happening in my life. We'll come to that in a few minutes. But in this text, I want to at least show you one thing. There's 3 commissioning statements in here, and each one takes a spiritual step down. And I want you to spend a moment, just as we reflect on this, to ask yourself, what step am I at? Okay? I'm not going to spend much time past that, but just what step am I at in this particular regard? 3 statements that kind of commission that God speaks to Moses, and Moses resists every one of them. The first one, God restates what he said in verses 23 through 25. Look at the previous chapter. During those many days, the king of Egypt died, and the people of Israel groaned because of their slavery and cried out for help. Their cry for rescue from slavery came up to God. And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. God saw the people of Israel, and God knew. He kind of restates what that's all about in verses 7 through 10. Look at verse 7. Then the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and I have heard their cry because of their taskmasters. I know their sufferings. He's restating, I know what's going on. And as a result of that, he says, Moses, it's time for you to get up and go. God gives Moses a heavenly point of view, as it were, and this is always the highest spiritual level for earthly events. Can you and I have any heavenly point of view about what God wants to do? We can have a little bit of idea. If Jesus told the disciples, go into all the world and make disciples, he has a plan to make disciples. He just needs our voice. He needs to step up and just do that work ourselves. That's because God has this heavenly point of view. All these disciples across all nations around the world just to do what God wants done. There's people in this neighborhood who need to be discipled. They need to grow up in their faith to know Christ. God has a point of view which is completely heavenly, and he points that out to Moses. And God lets Moses in on things from God's point of view and asks Moses to join him. What's Moses' idea? No, you got the wrong guy. He's clueless about that level. So God says, let's just step this thing down to the second commissioning. Look at verse 16 through 22. Verse 16, go and gather the elders of Israel together and say to them, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has appeared to me, saying, I have observed you, what has been done. The second piece is God gave a prophecy for encouragement. He says, this is what's going to happen. Let's keep reading through verse 22 just for a moment. Look at verse 20. And I will stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with all the wonders that I will do in it. After that, he will let you go. Does God ever prophesy what's going to happen in the Bible? He does it all the time. He used all the Old Testament prophets to tell them what's going to happen in the future. Did that change Israel's point of view? Rarely. He told Moses, this is what's going to happen. You think, well, you told Abraham 400 years. He said, well, now's the time. All this stuff's going to happen. Moses is unmoved by that. He does not change his mind. That's a step down from getting God's point of view at the spiritual level to, I'm going to do this in the near future. He doesn't say the word near, but he said, this is coming. What's God going to do? Moses is not convinced. He's unwilling to go unless success is guaranteed. he has all these excuses which are packed inside of this thing. Well, they won't listen to my voice, and why in the world would they want me to lead them? He has all this what if, and I need guaranteed success. Moses is learning about God. Do you ever need guaranteed success from God? Along my path, I've always wondered, is this going to work? Is this going to work? Moses has little or no faith that God will do what he says he can and will do. The third one is God's weary of Moses' unwillingness. He says, just don't do it. Look at verse 13, chapter 4. We didn't even get there yet, but verse 13. Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what to speak. This is the lowest level. He says, I can't do this. God says, you know what? I will literally speak through your mouth. I will bring Aaron, your brother, along with you, and he will speak with the words that I tell him to speak. And everyone's going to listen to you. Just go. Get on with it. Head out of here. Stop resisting. Literally, stop resisting. That's the lowest level of commission. It's like God puts his arm around your neck in a headlock and hauls you away. You need to go now. You're the person. We're not going to change our minds. Has that ever happened to you? I can tell you some stories, things that happened when I came to my churches and whatever else. This problem needs to be addressed. And God goes, Mark, you're the person. What? I don't want to be that person. And so he puts his arm around my neck. Yes you are. You come with me. Lead this. Solve this problem and move on. Israel has a huge problem. They're in slavery. And they got to get out of there now. God told Abraham, only 400 years, that's it. It's over. They need to come to the promised land. Because everything's ready right here for them to move in. Now, Israel's pretty obstinate. They got stiff necks and they won't go in when it's time to go in. But we don't trust God. That's a whole other story to kind of unpack over in Numbers chapter 14, 15. So God commissions Moses, and he just has 5 unbelievable excuses. Before we turn to those excuses, the 3 great leaders of the Bible, Moses, David, and Paul, were all reluctant to take up leadership. Each in their own way. Moses is perhaps the most reluctant. He needs serious prompting. It took 40 years in the wilderness, wandering, to get him ready, and he was still resistant. He needed every possible assurance. David had to rise from the sheepfold to step up to leadership, even as he waited and escaped the pursuing armies of Saul. Paul had to wait to be retrained as others, perhaps lesser men, planted the church and opened it up, and then he had to persuade them he was on their side. It took years of persuasion. He had to be retrained. And then he planted Christianity on the edge of culture in the midst of the Roman Empire. And all the time he continuously was telling everyone, I'm an apostle, just like all these other super apostles and everything else. He had to fight all that stuff. And then in the end, he says, I'm the least of all the apostles. I'm the worst sinner on the face of the earth. So he always was kind of anguishing about the fact that God called him. Why did God pick me? Those 3 great leaders, I learned some things from those guys, from this whole thing. We learned here and from previous stories of God's interaction with men that he is a choosing kind of God. Let that sink in for a minute. He's a choosing kind of a God. He chose Noah. He chose Abraham. He chose Isaac. He chose Jacob. He chose Joseph. He chose Moses. He just keeps choosing. He chose Mary. He chose Joseph. God is a choosing kind of a God. And he is so smart. That's a tacky word for God. He's so infinitely wise. Could I ever get to a place where God's choices are my choices, no questions asked? Moses' story just kind of raises the bar in that regard in my life. Now I want to wander through Moses' 5 excuses, which really are interesting, which I think defines this text right here. I see a commissioning from God. He goes, okay, here's the big perspective. Here's what's going to happen. Just get over there and do it. Those 3 commissioning moments. God does not back down. And then here's the 5 excuses that Moses presents to us, which I think they need to be part of the story because they help me understand who is God really. And Moses, he has not met God. He doesn't know a thing about God up to this point. He's talking to him at a burning bush. We talked about that last week. So the first excuse, why me? Moses has been chosen, but he is not ready to accept. Verse 11. Look at verse 11. But Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? He has 2 general objections. Why would Pharaoh listen to me, and why would the Israelites follow me? So leadership right there is you have a voice, you have a following. Both are legitimate questions. But God only says to him, I will be with you, and if you trust and obey me, I promise you that I will bring those people out of there, and you will serve me on this mountain. God doesn't respond to, I don't have a voice, no one's going to listen to me, and no one's going to follow me. He doesn't respond to that, the resistance from Moses. He just says, I will be with you. Let me ask you a question. What does that mean to you? What does it mean that God's with me? Is that kind of funny feeling that you get? And if you don't have a feeling, he's not there? I don't think so. It's a reality. It's not a feeling. It's a reality. God's literally going to walk next to Moses. Now, pay attention and say the right thing. There should be nothing foreign to a maturing believer about trusting and obeying God. The Word of God is filled with illustrations of that precept. But so many times, it's foreign to us to trust God and obey God. It's a foreign thing. God wants me to trust Him, and that means I obey Him as an act of my will, and then God acts in accordance with His desires. He brings His will to pass. I remember raising our 6 kids. Maybe you've never said these words to your kids, and you should have. Or maybe you shouldn't have. I don't know. You tell me. When I told my children to do something, and they put up an argument, I kind of stand there and look at them like, what part of what I just said is a discussion? I'm just asking you to do this. Just do it. And then they want to have a further discussion about the ramifications of it all. And why did you pick me? And I said to them, I don't owe you an explanation as to why I'm asking you to do this. And if you do it, I might tell you why, and I might not tell you why. Just do it. Years ago, I was the principal of a high school, Christian high school, and there was a young man, and for no particular reason, I said, Matt, would you mind policing the eating area here when everyone gets up and leaves? And he had this huge, in front of me, in front of everybody, argument about why I chose him. Guess what? He did it in the end, but it was an unhappy event. The common response always thought, and sometimes verbalized, is, I'm afraid. Now, my children were not afraid. There's no fear there. I don't know why they got picked. Perhaps Moses is afraid. What's God's most common statement in the Bible? Do not be afraid. Fear not. The longer I trust God, the less I am confronted with fear. I am building an internal story of God meeting my needs and responding to life around me. Moses needs to learn that lesson. He's about to lead 3 million people out of Egypt without a blowhorn. How he did that, I have no clue. He's about to do that, though. He's about to be the actual voice of God on the earth, speaking to a guy completely out of control, named Pharaoh. One particular insight. Walking by sight is natural. Walking by faith is supernatural. God is asking Moses to simply walk by faith. Think about this for a minute. When I was born, I was made to walk by sight. And the clearer my sight, the bigger my checkbook, the bigger my investments, the nicer whatever. If I walk by sight, I don't get into trouble. I just avoid all the stuff like that. But if I walk by faith, God gets all the credit. There's a huge difference in that. I mean, I was raised, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Become a really good sight walker. That's not God's way. Walk by faith. Close your eyes and just do what I tell you to do. Walking by sight is about me. Walking by faith is about who I listen to. Play a little game with someone sometime. Say, okay, I'm going to tell you where to go. Just close your eyes and just trust me. See what happens. I'm going to run you into a wall just because I want to. That's not God's way. Moses would learn this lesson over the next 40 years. Why me? Why us? We know how to trust God. Why not us? God loves to show us himself powerful. And in Moses' case, it's just over the top. The second excuse that Moses comes up with is in verse 13. Look there. And God said to Moses, if I come to the people of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. His second excuse, I don't know your name. So tell me, who should I say authorized me to lead this charge? We talked about the name last week. Jesus mirrored the deep truth of this with 7 I am statements in the book of John, which we went through last. I am the bread of life. I am the good shepherd. I am the door. I am the light of the world. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the true vine. And then he closes out, before Abraham was, I am. Not before Moses, before Abraham was, I am. I was in existence. In the Old Testament, God revealed himself 2 ways. First by his acts, and secondly by his names. Did Moses know any of the acts of God? Was he present for any of them? He was not present for any of them. He wasn't there when the flood happened. He wasn't there when Adam and Eve were put in the garden. None of that stuff happened. From his knowledge, it hadn't even been written down. It's just been carried along through storytelling. He had never seen the acts of God. God says, I'm going to act on behalf of my people. But right now, this is my name, and you should know my name. So Moses is behind a learning curve a bit. At 80 years old. God reveals himself by his acts. He created the universe. He put man in the Garden of Eden. He created the flood. He chose Noah. I mean, numerous things happened along the way. God acted. Now we know about his names. As New Testament believers, we have many more names of God. As a matter of fact, one website says there's 953 different names of God in the Bible. That seems really high, but that's what they claim. Moses would have loved to have traded places with us. Yet Moses had not seen God act and had only heard about it. And then, of course, we have the presentation of Jesus, of God, through Jesus Christ, our Lord. So we're distinct at that. God completes his answer in verses 14 and 15. Look there. God said to Moses, I am who I am. He said, say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, say this to the people of Israel, the Lord, that's Yahweh, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, he has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and thus I am to be remembered through all generations. Chapter 3 ends with God giving Moses some instructions, verses 16 to 22, for encouragement. Everything in there is contingent upon a Hebrew phrase which translates, I have observed you and what has been done to you in Egypt. In some form, this phrase occurs 4 other times in the book of Exodus, in this section right here, all the way in chapter 6 through 5. God is fully aware of what's going on. He wants Moses to know that. How does that affect you? That God's fully aware. Over my life in ministry, my life as dad, and whatever else I've been doing with my life, there have been times thinking, if I was God, that never would have happened. I would stop that. We actually said those words one time sitting in a courtroom. I was in charge, this never would have happened. And God's going, good thing you're not in charge. He sees the big picture of things. He just does. All of these things kind of play into, do I really trust God? God knows everything. In verse 16, he says, go. Just go. In verse 19, I know. I'm fully aware of everything that's going on. And in verse 20 and 21, I will. Our trust in God is just knowing and believing that those things are going to take place for our benefit. I'm fully able to bring about my will perfectly, God says. Do you trust me? Trusting God has 3 aspects. Let me just rattle through this. I'll come back to it at the end. It means that I obey God. And the most mature people, the most mature children, obey instantly. Right? Most mature students obey instantly. The most mature employees obey instantly. That instantly part is really kind of yanks my chain a little bit. Obedience from God is something that needs to happen instantly. Moses puts up all these barriers. I'm not doing this. You got the wrong guy. Find somebody else. Secondly, trusting God means that I know God is fully aware of everything that's going to happen, and I just go anyway. I just trust Him that He can unpack whatever's going to happen for my benefit and His glory. In the other order, for His glory first and my benefit second. And third, trusting God means that in God's time, everything will work itself out. One of the reasons I really like the story of Joseph is because I get to see the whole story. Guess what? God has not promised me to see the whole story in my life. It's just not going to happen. He has this long story. This one that we're involved in right here was over 400 years long. From the promise to Abraham to this particular moment was 400 years. And then there's another few years to get people out of Egypt to the promised land. So God has this long story. No promises that you get to see the whole thing play itself out in your life. So that you die happy. Trusting God means that I willingly submit to His perfect timing for all events. The third excuse, no one will believe or listen. We look in chapter 4, verse 1. Moses said, but behold, they will not believe me or listen to my voice, for they will say, the Lord did not appear to you. Moses never seems to be finished with doubt. He tells God that the people of Israel won't listen to him or believe him. Let me ask you a question. Is a possible negative response enough to cause you to push back against God? Well, I know what they're going to say. I was sitting in a board meeting many years ago, and one of our board members, been on the board for years, said, you know, Pastor Mark, I have never seen that process work. It always splits the church. And I could hear a little bit of rumbling in the board. I think there was 12 or 13 of us in there. I'm thinking, okay, I'm by myself this one. I proposed something to the board, and this particular guy, who's on the board for many years, that never works. And I said, well, we're not going to do it because it works. We're going to do it because God's word says we should do it. They let me do it. Guess what? Not a single person left the church. People came down at the end of that service. It was all quiet. Came down at the end of the service. Finally, someone told us the truth. Weeping. It was, God just used it in a mighty way. And I never said to that person, told you. Should have gone. Should have told that. Told you it did. The one time in your whole life when it actually worked. So what does God do for Moses? Take that stick in your hand, throw it on the ground. And it turned into a snake. And Moses goes, oh, I like this trick. This is cool. Stick your hand in your coat, you know, do the Napoleon thing, and out comes leprosy and all that jazz. And what are those things all about? He never actually used the second sign for any purpose whatsoever. As a matter of fact, the first sign never had the necessary response that he was expecting. Because what happened? The magicians in Egypt threw their rods on the floor, and they all turned into snakes as well. Oh, great trick. Well, then Moses' snake ate all those dumb snakes and became a stick again. Whatever that was all about. What's God really saying to Moses in that whole exchange right there? Is this really about Moses being sure that I have a stick that turns into a snake, and then turns back into a stick again? Is that what it's saying? I don't think so. I think God was really working over Moses' understanding of God's power. God was saying to Moses, you have a will. Animals have a kind of will, and sticks are at the will of their owners. Throw a stick on the ground as an act of your will. Moses does it and turns into a snake, an animal that has a kind of will of its own. Moses steps back, and God tells him to pick it up by the tail, and he does it, returns back to being a stick. Whose will was in charge of that whole exploit? Was God's will in charge of it? Moses' will in charge of it? The snake's will in charge of it? Or the stick's will in charge of it? Whose will was in charge of it? That's the whole point of this thing. There is a will that's in charge of all wills. Now I was trying to make a point to Moses. Guess what? It's my will. I'm going to bring it about the way I want to bring it about because my will is in charge. Got it? The purpose of the sign was to reassure Moses. My will is in charge. The fourth excuse, let me jot this, I did it underneath the third one. The fourth excuse is in verse 10. Look at chapter 14, verse 10. Moses said to the Lord, oh, my Lord, I am not eloquent, either in the past or since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and of tongue. What does God say to him? Who made tongues? He says, who made ears? Who made mouths? Etc., etc., etc. Who made all that stuff? You're not telling me what? Tell me something I don't know. That begs an interesting question. Who makes people mute? Who makes people deaf? Let's read the rest of the text right there, because God's not, he's not shady and mysterious here. Who has made made man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, Yahweh? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth, teach you what you should speak. But he said, oh, look, my Lord, please send someone else. God loves to do through us what he's prepared to do for us. Leaning on God is an act of faith, and giving God the credit is always easy when we lean on him. In Jerry Bridges' book, Trusting God, it's a great book. If you've never read the book, it's an old book, been around for decades. Trusting God. He says three statements in there. The first statement is, can we, or can I, trust God? Is God, the one you serve, trustworthy? Secondly, can I trust God? It's not about God anymore, it's about me. Does God need to work on that problem? I'm a control freak, I live in fear all the time, I got all my own personal issues. And the third one, can I trust God? We all actually trust something or someone. Moses is trusting himself. Pretty shaky right there. He's not trusting God right now. So, those are three really important questions to ask ourselves. Because we all trust somebody or something. Last excuse, I don't want to go find somebody else. Verse 13. But he said, oh my Lord, please send someone else. He's out of excuses. I don't want to go. Just like John. Remember that crazy guy? Go to Nineveh and preach the gospel. I have all these people who need to be saved or come to know Jesus. There's not a single person in that town anywhere who knows his left hand from his right hand. I'm not the wrong guy. He gets on a boat and goes the exact opposite direction. God says, you humans in your willfulness nonsense, I can fix this problem. And you're going to be stuck in a whale for 3 days. It's interesting. Think, ponder. Your will is not going to supersede God's. Disobedience always contends with God's authority. And distrust contends with his sovereignty. I want to talk about sovereignty just for a moment, then we'll close out. I had a bunch of stuff written up, and I just chopped it up and cut things out. We don't have enough time. This is a huge question. Throughout the opening scenes, Moses is introduced to God's power and his sovereignty. Moses assures God that he can do whatever is necessary to bring about his will as it regards the people of Israel. Moses' excuses are a backdrop for how sovereign God is in the affairs of mankind. Now, behind this scene is some theology that leaks all the way into the New Testament, the book of Romans chapter 9. It leaks throughout the whole story of God's people and God's interaction with the people. How sovereign is God? The question that this section begs is, how sovereign is God in my life, in your life, in the life of the world? And can God overcome all the barriers that we are frustrated by? Moses presents God with all these barriers. God's like, are you kidding me? I made mouths. Are you kidding me? I'm in charge of all wills. Is God that powerful? Does God get involved in our lives? Very few believers think that God is not sovereign over the universe, weather, migration of animals, and maybe even earthquakes, hurricanes, and natural disasters. What we struggle with is God sovereign over the details of my insignificant, measly little life? Is he that detailed? You ever ask yourself that question? Is God in charge right now? Is God sovereign in those details, or does he defer to our human will and let things move along, making adjustments for our foolishness and our mistakes, and getting what he wants to in the end? And at what point in that story does God step away? A.W. Tozer writes, his sovereignty requires that he be absolutely free, which means simply that he must be free to do whatever he wills to do anywhere at any time to carry out his eternal purpose in every single detail without interference. Were he less than free, he must be less than sovereign. God is said to be absolutely free because no one and no thing can hinder him or compel him to stop him. He is able to do as he pleases, always, everywhere, forever. Period. I tend to agree with Tozer. It's true. On the other hand, that famous guy, Richard Dawkins, quips, in a universe of blind physical forces and genetic replication, some people are going to get hurt, others are going to be lucky, and you won't find any rhyme or reason to it, or any justice. Sorry, I don't agree with that at all. I don't even want to live in that universe. Thank goodness we don't have to. In this section of Exodus, we are made aware that God made mouths. He's the ultimate cause of what's going on. It leaves us with all kinds of troubling questions. Well, we might wander into that, we might not. But God's trying to persuade Moses. What's going on right now, I have complete control over. What's going on in Mark's life, what's going on in Kathy's life, what's going on in John's life, and Joe's life, and Mike's life, everybody's life, God has complete control over. Whatever's going on in your world right now. You got a wayward kid, you got a difficult situation, you got a lost relative, a spouse, who knows? God is in complete control of it. Let's draw some conclusions. First, obeying God is a guarantee of godly success. That's what I learned from this. If you just obey God, he will define your success and he will see to it. That's what's going to happen. I like that idea. I have my own ideas about success. God has his, and they are way better than mine. Okay? Second, humility is vital to success in serving God with our talents. It's interesting. During the story of the Exodus and Moses and Aaron going in front of Pharaoh, does Aaron ever say a single word? Have we got record of it? He does not say a single word. We don't even need him. Stay home and make dinner. Whatever. We don't need you. God takes Moses, uses his gifts, and just gets the job done. We'll highlight the plagues and how Moses just stepped up and God says, I got this one. That's the second part. God knows humility, but we have to learn it as we trust God. And here's the third one. Trusting God means that I instantly obey. It means that I don't need an explanation. And it means I can patiently wait for God's timing. That's what it means to trust God. I instantly obey. I do not need an explanation. And I am perfectly willing to wait. Well, that just covers the basics, doesn't it? That messes with me too. are trusting you that you will use our church to impact this community. And we're going to do some things, believing that you're leading us. We just pray, Lord, that we'll patiently wait for you to work. You'll bring us the people you want us to minister to. And we're just going to obey. Speak to us. We are committed right now to instantly obey. We don't need an explanation. And we are waiting for your time. Bless us now, Lord, as we close out. If someone needs to get together with me or someone else and just work through trust issues, I pray that they will. If someone's here without Christ and they don't know the trustworthy